The Chicago Bulls are impressing a lot of people so far this season, and myself included. I really didn't think they were going to do this great. I low key thought they were only going to get like one win to start the season off. I'm going to be honest. So, yeah, they're doing really, really well. And in today's video, I'm just going to talk about so far how their season has been looking, who's been the top guys this season, and do I think that they could keep this up? Or is this just a nice little Cinderella run that we're having to start the season off, just to have something interesting going on the East. Well, I'll talk about all that in today's video, but before we get into all of that, there is just one thing we need to do. Let's hear that intro. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another What's Next on Basketball YouTube video. I'm your host, as always, Jeremy, and in today's video, as I mentioned in the intro, we will be talking about the Chicago Bulls. Not really a team I thought I would talk about at the start of the NBA season, but here we are now, I guess. So, obviously, if you've been keeping up with the NBA for the first couple games, unless you haven't, then, well, here's some good news for you if you're a Chicago Bulls fan. The Chicago Bulls are doing really, really well. As of me recording, the Chicago Bulls are currently 6-1 in the Eastern Conference. With this record, this does put them as the first seed in the East, which is honestly awesome to see. They just been killing it recently. I'm actually gonna show it here. Let me find the schedule. To show the schedule so far, they ended up starting the season off with a 5 game winning streak, which is actually very impressive by them. They ended up being teams during that 5 game stretch. They did beat the Detroit Pistons, which was the first game, and that's a team that a lot of people are expecting to go pretty high in the standings this season. Same thing with the Orlando Magic. I know the Magic aren't really doing that great, and their team has kind of looked a bit weird and they haven't been doing great on defense, but still, I still feel like that's something you should talk about the Bulls team as being a team that has Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner, who both, even though the team's doing bad, they're both still looking pretty good this season. They also beat the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks is another team that a lot of people have been hyping up since they have Trey Young, they got Porzingis, they got Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, Nikhil Alexander Walker, which, fun fact, did you know that Nikhil Alexander Walker and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander are cousins? Bet you didn't know that. That's just a fun fact of the day. But regardless of that fun fact, that was the third team they beat that I would personally say was really impressive. They also did beat the Sacramento Kings, which I don't really see as a huge threat this season. If you want to count it, sure. But the other team that I'm more so looking at during this 5 game stretch was the New York Knicks. The New York Knicks currently are projected to go first or second in the East. They have a really strong team over New York. So being able to beat them, I also felt like was huge. Now you could make the argument that the Knicks were on a bit of a losing streak, so that might have helped a bit. But still, being able to beat the Knicks, Hawks, Magic, and Pistons, 4 teams that I would consider 4 of the 5 biggest threats, probably, or at least 4 of the 6 biggest threats of the season. And being able to beat them is just really, really impressive to help you potentially just do great this season. Like I said before in previous videos, the Eastern Conference is wide open this season. Anybody can get any spot if they truly, truly desire. There is not one team that I'm confident in being like, oh, they'll take the first seed, or this team will take the 10th seed, or and so on. Any team can go anywhere, and this just proves it. You have the Chicago Bulls who are taking advantage of that and beating teams that maybe later on in the season they probably won't be able to beat. So they realize this is the time now to take that advantage because a lot of these teams too, like the Hawks and Knicks, and you could also make the argument with the Magic too. They got players right now that have never really been in this system. They're trying out new things. So these teams are doing stuff early on in the season. So we could expect not wins, losses happen that we wouldn't have expected from those teams, which is obviously right now what you see. A lot of those teams have lost to the Bulls early on. So that's been really cool to see that they've been taking advantage of that. And they've been able to do that with the help of some of their players. Some of the players I put here just to mention, first off, Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey has been on a tear. Looking at his stats right now, it is just insane. Now, I know it's only been 7 games, but I still feel like this is something we should talk about. Josh Giddey is averaging almost a triple double. He has 23 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists so far this season. And this is through 7 games. And I believe if we look here, let me just check the game log. So far this season, he has gotten a lot of obviously 20-point games, of his highest being 32 that he did against the New York Knicks when they won. He had 29 in his last game against the Philadelphia 76ers, which was a very impressive game by the Bulls. That was that was the last game that they did as of me recording. And for those of you that didn't watch the game, I ended up seeing the highlights, and the Bulls were actually down by 24 points in that game, which was, you know, in most NBA games, uh, especially for a team like the Bulls, if they're facing off against the 76ers, who have also been doing really well this season, you're probably going to say, all right, it's over, like, we can just pack it up. They're probably not coming back. But the NBA once again shows us time and time again that there is no lead that is guaranteed to be safe. And that's what happened here. They ended up coming back from a 24-point deficit and won the game. I think it was 113 to 111. I could be mistaken. But that was an awesome game to see. And then talking about other players, because I got sidetracked there. Talking about other players, you also have Nikola Vucevic, that he's been averaging 19 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists a game. He also has been getting 1 steal, which is really good to see from Nikola, who a lot of people have kind of been doubting on as, like, kind of calling him washed or whatever, feeling like he wasn't really going to be a big part to this Bulls team. You also have Ayo Dosunmu, who he's been averaging 16 points. You have Bucelis, he's been averaging 15. Even Kevin Herter is doing really, really good. And I was actually happy to see Kevin Huerter on this team because I felt like that was a shooter that the Bulls desperately needed off the bench. And this season so far, he's been averaging 13. Also, he's been having 4 rebounds and 3 assists, so he's been great. I think he's on the bench. Let me check here. Yeah, he's coming off the bench. Uh oh, well, technically he's supposed to come off the bench, but since Kobe White is injured, I believe he's been the starter. Let me uh let me confirm this to make sure. Oh, no, I'm lying. Okay, so he's been coming off the bench. So I was correct on that. So it's nice to have something like that for the Bulls when you need some of your starters to take a rest. Um, what else do I got here? Now there is one thing I will say though about the Chicago Bulls team that does worry me a bit. Obviously, I just talked about how they went 5-0 to start the season. They're 6-1 right now. You got players like Giddy, Vucevic, and Io, etc., that are doing really, really well. They've been doing great playmaking, great shooting, honestly, pretty good defense since you've been able to stop teams like, again, the Knicks, the Hawks, the Magic, the Pistons. That one I felt like was really shocking, especially since the Pistons, I feel like, is going to be one of those teams that's going to be really difficult defensively. I haven't really seen much of their games, so maybe they haven't been doing that great so far this season. I think I've only seen 1 game from them so far. It's everything's been going great for the Chicago Bulls, but my only worry is with those names I said, except for the Kings, they've all been Eastern Conference teams. And as many of you know, I don't think the Eastern Conference is the stronger conference. I think that more so goes to the West, who I feel like for a lot of these East teams are going to be the bigger threat to look at because you got teams like the Thunder, the Nuggets, the Lakers. What's another? You got the Thunder, Nuggets, Lakers. You got Rockets, Spurs, Warriors, Timberwolves, Clippers. Um, these are teams that have a chance to go very, very far and could be a huge threat if a team like the Bulls made it all the way to the NBA Finals. So before I can really, really say like, oh, they're going to be championship contenders this season, I'm very happy with how they've been going because I feel like with the Chicago Bulls, it's nice to see them having a good run. I think we saw something like this a year or two ago when they had a nice run to start the season, but hopefully this time it, stays that way because just to give you guys some, something to think about. The last time the Chicago Bulls made it to even the playoffs was the 21-22 season. That season, they would go on to face the Milwaukee Bucks, I believe it was, and they would lose in the first round. So after that, they ended up not making the playoffs the next couple years. Looking at it here, it's been this could potentially this could be the fourth year in a row where they miss the playoffs. Now again, I think they have the best chances of not of letting that not happen. That's yeah, it's been kind of rough for the Bulls. And if you need any more evidence, let's go back even further. Even before the 21-22 season, the last time the Bulls made the playoffs, you have to go all the way back to the 2016-2017 season, and it ended the same way, where they went to the first round and got eliminated. And then if we want to talk about like a good playoff run by the Chicago Bulls, you have to go all the way back to the 2010-2011 season, where the Chicago Bulls made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. And just to give you an idea of what this roster was made of for the Chicago Bulls during that season, we had Derrick Rose, who was still in his prime. We had Taj Gibson, who was pretty good as a center at the time. Uh, you have Carlos Boozer here. You have Ronnie Brewer. You have Noah on here. Kyler Corver, CJ Watson. You got some guys on here that I do personally remember, but like not like that. I don't remember some of these guys too well. Obviously, like guys like Derrick Rose and Taj Gibson, I know. But that's kind of what we're looking at when it comes to the last time that they made uh anywhere far in the playoffs. So it's like I said, we have to see. We have to see how good this team can do because it's been a long time. And I know obviously that's referring to the Eastern Conference. That doesn't really have to do much when it comes to the West. But as I was saying, the Eastern Conference doesn't really look like it's going to be that strong. Besides, obviously the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers, you could even say the Pistons. I don't know if I would say the Magic and the Hawks right now, just because they're both not like high spots as of now. Maybe you could put the Sixers in there, but regardless, the point is I think they'll have an easier chance than they did in the prior years when it comes to making to the NBA finals. So I'm just worried that they might not be ready for that. So I would first have to see how they do against the rest of these Western Conference teams before I really say that they're going to be championship contenders. Um, what else do I have on here? Oh, I'm very, very happy seeing how Josh Giddey is doing with the Chicago Bulls. I feel like this needs to be mentioned again. I know I mentioned it earlier in the video, but Josh Giddey is averaging almost a triple double. This is the guy that got drafted by the Thunder, was doing really good with the Thunder. He looked like one of the nice guys that they can put around their team when it came to this young, great team that had a very good chance of winning. And then he ended up getting traded. He got traded to obviously Chicago for Alex Caruso. And was that the year they won? No, that wasn't the year they won. It would be next year that the Thunder would win a championship, which was really unfortunate because I was really hoping Josh Giddey would be a part of that Thunder team, but it just really didn't work out. And then, of course, you have the situations that he was in a few years ago. And obviously, that led to a lot of people, feeling indifferent about him. And it was a whole crazy mess that his early stages of his career was going through. Now he's finally been able to, get through all that and just be the top dog that a lot of people expected him to be. I think this is the first year. Let me check to make sure. As of now, this is the first year of him averaging 20 plus points. The other years, I think the highest was like 16. Last season, I think he averaged like 14, 15 points. So now he's finally becoming the main guy. I'm very curious to see how it looks once Kobe White comes back. I don't know how serious his injury is. Let me see here. Maybe they have a report on it of how bad his injury is. Um, it looks like it's an injury with his calf, so it's probably still going to be a couple weeks until we actually see him play. So I'm very curious to see how it will look when he's back in the lineup. If him and Josh Giddey could coexist as like the two top stars. I'm very curious to see also if the Chicago Bulls try to make any trades. Maybe they see how this team is doing and they say, hey, let's try to add another guy that could help keep this train going, that could help us keep a top seed. Because all they really need is the sixth seed to guarantee a spot in the playoffs. And then from there, they can figure it out. And I feel like that's something they could really, really do. Again, hopefully they're able to stay this good. It would be nice just to see a different team at the top of the Eastern Conference. I feel like the last few years it's been like the Celtics, the Bucks, the Heat for a little bit, um, the Cleveland Cavaliers a lot of years. Then I feel recently, obviously with the Knicks, the Hawks have been up there a lot. Magic having been up there now. Who's another team you could probably say? The Pacers, is awesome to see them get up there, but, Sixers, that's when I'll say the Sixers. Sixers are another team that's, like, they've always been on there, so seeing a team like the Bulls, potentially get in that spotlight is really awesome to see because there are some good players, I just mentioned some of the guys on here, and I really like all these players. They're all really cool. I think they all deserve to be shown to the casual audience of how great they can really be. Like, I always told my friend how I liked Josh Giddey. Like, as a basketball player, I thought he was awesome. I thought he's a really good player, and I told him that I feel like him getting traded to the Bulls, as I mentioned earlier, did suck because he ended up not being able to get that ring with them. But I think this will be a great opportunity for Josh Giddey to reach that superstar spot or like maybe all-star spot with the Chicago Bulls. And so far, he's been doing that. So we could potentially see an all-star spot for him this season, which would be awesome. Nikola Vucevic, as I was saying, he was a guy that a lot of people kind of doubted. They didn't think he could be a guy that, honestly, a lot of people just wanted him to get off of the Chicago Bulls because he's been there for a few years now and it just hasn't been working. He's been through so many different things now, which kudos to him for never wanting to request a trade or anything. So it's just nice to see that he's still been doing well. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just feel like overall, this has been a fun team to watch. I am very curious to see how they do with their schedules coming up. Again, I think I'll really determine how good they are by when they face either Western Conference teams or maybe some more serious contenders as a whole. If we look, where's their schedule? Here it is. If you look at their schedule, the next teams they're going to be facing is the Milwaukee Bucks, who have been having they're another team that's been having a great start to the season, so we'll see how they do. They have the Cleveland Cavaliers. That should be a fun game. The San Antonio Spurs will be their first like actual powerhouse when it comes to Western Conference teams. So I would love to see how that goes. That's going to be on November 10th. Then they have like Detroit, Utah, Denver, and so on. They got a couple teams on here, a few like really powerhouse teams, and it seems like for most of November though, it's going to be like the lower seeded teams they'll face. So hopefully the Bulls can keep up this winning streak of theirs or a winning record, I should say. And, hopefully we can just see some different teams this season make it to the top because again, the Eastern Conference is wide open. That's why I've been trying to tell people if you're a fan of a Western Conference team, try to also pick an Eastern Conference team this season as well because you just don't know where they're going to go. Obviously, you guys know who I root for. You know what team I'm going to rock this season when it comes to the East. But there are also teams I'm keeping an eye on as well to see where they end up and who the Knicks would potentially have to face come playoff time. But yeah, that's really all I have to say. Congrats to the Bulls for the great start so far. Hopefully, we can see some more great stuff by Josh Giddey. Hopefully, Nikola keeps doing his thing. Io, Kevin Herter. Oh, another player too that I've really been liking this season is is it Trey or Tyus? I always get the two mixed up. Trey Jones. Trey Jones has been doing really well, like when it comes to steals. He's averaging 2.3 this season so far, the most on the team. So that's been awesome to see as well. But yeah, that's really all I got to say. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know how you guys feel about the Chicago Bulls. And do you guys see them as like maybe a team that could contend for the championship this season? Or are you just going to have to wait and see and you need more proof to really determine that? But yeah, as always, this is the What's Next on Basketball YouTube channel. I am your host, as always, Jeremy, and I'll be signing off for the day. Have a good one, everyone.